Welcome back to the Raice Brothers podcast. Super happy to be here with my main man, Raice. And we got on live with us, we got Rabbi Eli Deutsch, or Eli the Jew, or Rabbi Eli, or Rabbi Elio Yaakov. You can find him all over the place. He's written books. He's teaching all over. He's got the Wine and Hasidus one night a week in the Old City. You got to check that out if you haven't done that yet. You've been teaching in so many institutions, Birthright, Jew Essence, Aish, Gewalt. So you've been doing incredible things. And you and I, we've gotten to know each other over the years through Rabbi Gerzi, right? We're all students of the rabbi, and we're super happy to have you on the podcast.
Amazing to be here. Excited to be with the Raice Brothers. Beautiful honor. Thank you.
Gewalt. So Rabbi Eli, maybe just let's get back just a little bit of your history, your story.
Before we go with this history and story, I want to know, that beard is glorious. How do you grow a beard like that?
Well, to be honest with you, it's a little bit of a godsend. Truth is, for a while I couldn't. I grew a beard, but it wasn't as like you put it, glorious as it is now. And I don't know. I got more into kind of the Kabbalistic thing, and there's a Kabbalistic concept of beard and all that. And so whatever, I was thinking about it for a while, about growing the beard, and then there I was one day by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in Meron, and I don't know, it came to me to grow the beard, And so then I went back to Yerushalayim, to my home, and so I mentioned it to my wife, and this is kind of the biggest miracle of it all, that she was like, all right, sure, whatever you want to do, I support it. And I was like, really? Wow, okay. So then, that's not to say that she's not supportive, she is, but this is another level. And so anyway, then I went over to a rabbi of mine across the old city here, Rav Mordechai Scheinberger, and I went to speak to him about it. And first question he asks me, I told him I'm thinking about growing the beard. First question he asks me is, what does your wife think? So, and then I was like, actually, she's okay with it. And so he was like, all right, so then why haven't you grown it until now? And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, okay, ani choshev ani yoter yafeh beli. But I think I look better without it. And he's like, ani choshev she'ata yoter yafeh im. I think you better look at with it. So anyway, he proceeded to give me a few words of chizuk, words of strength, words of encouragement, and just different ideas about the beard according to Kabbalah. And
here we are. Beard balm?
No special beard balm. No, whatever the greases that people put in there. None of that. You have to find the right shampoo though, and no conditioner for me. And that's it. Baruch Hashem. And so here we are.
And it works out nowadays also, because super in. Beards are very in.
Well, they followed my trend. Listen, wherever I go, I got guys hitting on me about the beard. That's for sure. That's for sure. Security guards, happens all the time. So, whatever.
All right, good.
Yeah.
It is an epic beard. I must say, many people that go and they're thinking about growing the beard, and then they finally grow it, and it's a little underwhelming. But yours definitely hits the spot.
I'm about ready to wrap it up because I just came here because I wanted to know about the beard. But if we want, we can talk about some other stuff too.
As you wish. You guys are leading the show. I'm just a passenger.
All right. So, Reb Eli, give us a little background of your journey, where you come from, how you got into this, and how you got into this whole world of teaching Torah, Kabbalah, and all that.
Let's start off slow. Where'd you grow up? First of all,
okay, so let's start. Yeah, let's start there. So I grew up in a place called Teaneck, New Jersey.
Teaneck Shenishba.
Teaneck Shenishba, exactly. And then anyway, I grew up, and thank God I grew up with some Jewish background, etc. But as I was growing up, it was very nice. Okay, I had some Jewish background, but always had questions, right? Always a lot of whys. Okay, so they're going to teach you, whatever, how to make tea on Shabbos or something, but why the heck am I keeping Shabbos? Why should I do this? Why should I do that? Why should I believe that there's a God? Why should I believe God gave Torah to the Jewish people? Why should I believe the oral Torah Shabbat is legit and relevant? Foundational questions, which I understand when you're younger. It's too, it's a little bit too philosophical. And then when you're older, they kind of assume you already are good with all this. And so somehow it all gets skipped over, right? Also, I'm not so sure how many people are able to honestly give it over in a clear and refined way. So anyway, so I got to a place where I went to Israel, and I was kind of searching these questions out, right? And I was searching it, and I wanted to see what, if Judaism had a good rational basis and things like that. And so I kind of started searching out for people, or either institutions or people that can kind of give over this stuff in a clear manner. And so thank God I was blessed to connect with certain people, among them Rabbi Mati Berger and Esha Torah, in particular, who were really able to kind of give over this stuff really, really clearly and thoughtfully and rationally. And that's how I started, right? When I was younger, also I was kind of passionate about helping people in life and whatever was going on with them. And so then so I always thought when I was younger that I was kind of going to go into psychology or that kind of path. But then as I got more into the Jewish thing and the truth of Judaism and got more passionate about it, so those two things kind of merged, because what's a better way to, help people than to, connect them with their path in life in terms of also meaningfulness, God, truth, whatever, from a spiritual perspective and from a philosophical perspective. So I got that's how I kind of got more interested and connected to the concept of Jewish outreach, kiruv, and all of that. I don't know if kiruv is a good word or bad word. Some people have it's a loaded word nowadays sometimes. So, but just Jewish outreach and helping Jews and connecting to people and helping people grow or get to a certain level of clarity in life, in Torah and Judaism. And so as I grew in terms of those kind of questions, philosophical questions, and getting clear on a lot of those things, so I actually got more interested in a deeper way, in a more spiritual way. Okay, so this whole system of Judaism, okay, very nice, very clear, very good, but okay, like, hold on, but why do this particular thing in this particular way at this particular time, right? What's the spiritual depth to that? What's the spiritual reasoning behind that? And so then that led me more towards kind of the Kabbalistic concepts and Hasidic teachings and ideas and books and Rebbes and all that kind of stuff, Ramchal, Maharal, all that kind of stuff, Leshem, whatever, all of these kind of things that really kind of open up the spiritual system of Judaism, and then also get into the meaningfulness behind why we do what we do. And so those are the kind of things that I'm passionate about personally, is the philosophical whys and also the spiritual whys.
Wow. That's cool. Growing up, we also were very into the whys. It's like our father was always, Shabbos table, always guests, and there was never any question that was off the table. Like, ask anything, ask any question. And my father, and if he didn't know the answer, he'd be like, "All right, I don't know. Let's figure that one out." So, yeah, definitely identify very strongly with that drive to understand why, and that's cool also. And then in the particulars, that's funny. Is that, would you say like that's also similar to how we got into Hasidus?
I'll tell you, for me, it's interesting that you bring that up, because for me, growing up, obviously, as you said, like in schools, they didn't talk about these things, but by our Shabbos table, we had it. But we did go to gateways. You know what gateways is?
Yeah, sure.
They like connect like the arachim, so to speak, for the religious folk.
Yeah.
And they did a great job of really opening up these concepts and listening to these speakers and things like that as well. Just really clarifying, what does it mean that we got the Torah at Sinai? What does the Masorah of Judaism mean for me right here? Like, what is the core beliefs of what it means to be a Jew? And I think that it's these are super essentials. I've read through some of your books, and they're really good. They're really good. They also go through the core ideas, why we believe, and just some of the understandings. There's actually a great book by Rabbi Lawrence Kellerman, also like Permission to Believe. Like, these books, they really are. And Baruch Hashem, there's a whole genre now in the bookstore that includes all of these core conversations, these core, I guess I don't even know what you call them.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I don't know how, this is just me talking, obviously, but I don't know how people kind of like live without it in a world which presents all sorts of options. Like, how can you be, moving forward without like a solid foundation in terms of the why on earth should I be doing any of this? I don't know. I don't get it. But hey, that's just me. If other people, that's not, everyone has different strokes for different folks. If that doesn't tickle your fancy, or you don't need those answers or that clarity, then great, fine, wonderful. Maybe you're holier than me. I don't know. But like for me, like I don't understand, like, different institutions and schools or yeshivas or whatever are building the building, but like you don't have the foundations put in place. You want to throw on Torah Lishma, and it's just like, hold on a second, why the heck am I sitting here and doing anything? Why am I not doing X, Y, or Z that society around me is offering? I don't know, but hey, listen, if it works for people that don't need that and they're good and they're strong enough emunah without ever having any of that, so gesund to hate, as they say. But for me, this was definitely something that was of supreme importance, and then definitely other people obviously I speak to as well.
Well, I'd say this. I mean, you say maybe they have more emunah, but I think it can go one of two ways.
Yes,
Either
definitely.
could be that, people have such a strong foundation of emunah. This is what I do. This is my tradition. I don't have any questions, and that's great, maybe. But it could go the other way. Like,
yeah.
I think plenty of people nowadays are orthoprax, which is, it's a great society. The Jewish community is very caring. It's close knit. It's fun. It's a great group of people. So I practice orthodoxy, but do I really believe in it? All right, whatever. Who cares? Like, and what I do, b'chadrei chadarim, no one needs to know about. But I have a great community. I like the schools. I like the kiddush on Shabbos. I like the organization. If I'm down and out, I know people are there to help me. It's good chesed, whatever.
I hear you. Absolutely. So there's so that was the other side that I, in my own life, was battling, which was, listen, I'm not up for that. So, so I needed to get some clarity on these things,
I think it's very real. I think that also drove me a lot. I do think that a lot of people are not necessarily, they're not, some people are struggling with the questions of understanding the logical why, but I think that many people are also struggling with the emotional why. As human beings, we might, even with all the logic in the world, we don't actually do it. I saw a very profound quote from Rabbi Eli Kitov, he mentioned, he says, when you're learning, right now we're learning Bamidbar, right? We're in the Sefer of Bamidbar, and as you're going through the different parshios, it like blows you away. Like was one of the greatest generations ever. It's called the Dar Dea, and they went through so many experiences of Hashem and the overwhelming clarity that they had, and yet they kept on falling again and again and again in the most horrible ways. Avodah Zarah and Gilei Arayos, and just straight up, bashing God. Oh, you can't give us food, and we need this, and complaining. And he says, it comes down to it that you could have all the information in the world, but if you don't actually work on your Yiras Shamayim and bring it down in an emotional language, in a way that talks to you down into the simple, basic parts of yourself, you'll keep on falling.
So I'm glad. So that's a good thing that you brought up. I want to share with you that after I'd spent some time in Israel, getting some clarity on all of this stuff. So the principal of my high school was in Israel, and I set up to meet with him. And more or less, I said to him a kind of a similar thing like what you said, but hear me out. I said to him, like, look, this was stuff that was missing. This philosophical underpinnings of Judaism was something that's missing. This is something that we need to put in the curriculum. And the case I made to him is like, look, in a world of high school and there's secular, I went to the Frisch school, high school. Okay. So, I didn't grow up in Muncie or anything. But sure there it's all pure and whatnot. But here, so, in a world where the world, you're obviously very exposed to whatever the world is offering, and essentially we're all growing up as non-Jews that, if we're lucky, keep Shabbos, as opposed to Jews. If you understand what I'm saying, we grew up essentially with non-Jewish mentality, non-Jewish headspace, non-Jewish definitions of what's good and evil, and that's what we're ingrained with. We grew up on TV, we grew up on movies, we grew up on Hollywood, and then it's like, oh, but don't do that, keep Shabbos. You know what I mean? Or, oh, but don't do that because you're Jewish, right? And that's how we grow up in this quote-unquote modern Orthodox world. So, And so I sat with him. I said, look, listen, the world is what it is, but like, and so emotionally, people are going to have that struggle, but like, at least give them the rational. You have the Torah side, you have classes in Judaism, at least give them the rational. So at least you have a struggle going on. People have some rational truth. Then they have to struggle with the emotional side and pulls and stuff like this. But if you don't even give them rational truth, so like, what are you even asking from them? You know? And so that's the case that I made to him. And so what happened? Did he listen to me or did he not? So the answer is, well, listen to the answer. The answer is that I found out that the following year they had instilled like Jewish philosophy class as like the mishmar of Thursday night, which of course is like a joke. They bring in Chinese food, nobody shows up or whatever, but, and whatever. So anyway, that's what happened, but whatever. Now I think there's much more inclusion of these kind of things and these kind of ideas. And there's a lot more passionate like rabbis that have gone through the whole Israel thing and gone through their own journey and searches and strengthen themselves. So Baruch Hashem, I think they're getting a lot more of this kind of flavor in these schools nowadays, you know, a couple of decades later. But anyway, so I just wanted to share that story.
Hasidus is hitting those communities?
I think there are Yechidim. I think there are rabbis. Listen, there are rabbis who are coming back from Israel, younger, passionate. Hasidus, I don't know, but passion, I think more so. I can't say. I don't know enough about what exactly is going on in those spheres right now, but I definitely believe that there are definitely Yechidim who are doing it. I can't say that there's this wave of tons of like rabbis like with an army of Hasidus coming, but like are there definitely people who are out there who are involved in it and like and giving over those kind of Torahs? For sure, I definitely believe that exists. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? I have a theory and I'd like to run it by you because you're talking about, you know, if you're going to give classes and explain or, you know, give the why and the rational, I want to know how much does that really affect somebody? How much does it really change? I understand someone who's searching, someone who wants to know. So great. You turn them on. Here's answers. But if you don't have like what Yehuda's saying, that emotional connection in the first place, like how many people are going to be turned on by a great class or a great, you know, like to me, I feel like the reason why I'm so connected to Yiddishkeit is because growing up, we had, we had Fruity Pebbles for breakfast on Shabbos morning. I mean, that's just an example, but growing up,
beer with
they
chocolate.
brainwashed you.
It starts with fruit. I didn't have beer when I was 7 years old. When I was
true.
6, 5, 6, 7,
Pebbles.
we had Entenmann's and Fruity Pebbles on Shabbos
party.
morning. And to me, Shabbos, no connection to like anything rational. It was just Shabbos was my favorite day of the week because it was fun. We were together with our family. We had great food. We had a great time. It was good treats. And Shabbos morning was like, what could be better? You get up. My father comes back from learning with his, his chavrusa, and he sits down. He has a coffee with us, and we just relax a little. We smile, and we go to shul, and the rabbi smiles at us, and it was good energy. And because I had that basis of, Judaism is something which I love. It's something that's a great experience for me. So now I want to know why, what, where. But without that basis and without that experience, how much does the logical, rational stuff do?
So it's a good question. Definitely, it's best to have a kli that's ready to be mekabel, for sure. But I think it's different strokes for different folks. People who are more leaning in the rational place are looking from a rational perspective. People who are not there at the moment might start off an emotional perspective. Let me give you an example. Let's take someone who grew up in a non-religious surrounding. Okay, so there are those people who will say, you invite them to a Shabbos meal, and they're like, yeah, sure, good. There'll be wine, good company. Maybe I'll find a young lady, whatever. Yeah, let's do it. It'll be fun. We'll chill. Awesome. And that same person, though, if you were to offer them, like, to come to some class on Judaism, whoa, class, slow down. That's a little too much. But there are other people who it's like you offer them a class, and they'll be like, oh, yeah, okay, fine. I'll come to a class, intellectual, we'll go through an intellectual thing, and maybe we'll have a conversation. I'll hear some intellectual arguments. Maybe I'll have some thoughts. Maybe we'll go back and forth. Cool. But Shabbat meal, whoa, that's in someone's house. It's too intimidating. Maybe I'm going to have to do something. Maybe I'll feel weird. Maybe it's like I'm going to be suffocated. There are people who have that perspective. So it's really different souls for different strokes for different souls, if you will. I mean, people are coming from a different bechinas, different places. And at least I could speak to that from the perspective of the Jew who's coming from the non-observant background. I assume also it's a similar thing for the Jew for the religious background. So I mean, that's at least been my experience. There are different people who their first step is going to be different, just depending on either who they are or their psychological, emotional makeup, So, I mean, that's been my experience at least.
It's interesting. I think also that when there's different ways also of giving over questions. I actually once sat with a rabbi and who wanted me to come and teach in his yeshiva. And I turned to him, I said, to be honest with you, I don't think you really want me in your yeshiva. He says, well, why not? What do you mean? Like, you're doing such good work with these guys. I said, in your yeshiva, if a kid comes over and asks, why should I get up in the morning? You don't give him an answer. You don't even let him sit with the question. You just tell him, this is the rules. You have to wear a black hat and you have to put on tefillin and you have to do X, Y, and Z. I said, if a guy came over to me and asked that question, I would hit him back with a question that doubled down on it. Like if a guy goes, why should I get up in the morning? Be like, yeah, why are you keeping Shabbos? And let him walk away with that. And sometimes asking the profound question, like, well, it says in the Torah. Okay, what does the Torah have to do with you?
Right.
Like, and once I think that also these logical questions, we can immediately, we can sometimes leave it in the realm of logical conversation, or you can sometimes bring it down and say, which Judaism is all about, right? You're living a whole reality based on these beliefs, and then when you can question them and even go the other way, meaning somebody who's not religious, and say, what's so special about the Jewish people? And when you begin to ask the question, what's unique? What's going on? What's the conversation about? What is so profound about this story? Why is the story of the Jewish people so incredible? And as we begin to open these things up and open up the questions of what are we doing here in the world, and these kind of questions, these are really age-old questions that I think for many people, they're not really answering them. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel actually said, people are teaching Torah these days, but they're missing the point. Because the point is that the Torah and Judaism is the answer. But if you don't have a question, then you're missing the whole point. He goes, in today's world, all the rabbis, they're all teaching Torah just as information, or they're just as this is the way it should be, without anybody hearing the question. But
Rav Karlbach said the same thing as well. He also
really?
said that.
Yeah. They say, Kol tzama lechula mayim, right? Anybody who's thirsty, come and drink. If you're not thirsty, you don't appreciate water the same way. Even halachically, you don't even make a shekel on water if you're not thirsty.
Right.
Yeah.
On beer, you do. And that's why Hasidus is compared to beer.
Oh, yeah. Very good.
Anybody can enjoy a beer.
Yeah, I feel that you gotta have the question. You gotta let it sit. Anytime I come across a question anywhere, whether someone, if a kid asks me a question, I think, where did I learn this from? Maybe we learned it from Abba. A lot of places, someone asks a question, you gotta sit with that question and go, that's a great question. Right. That's a really thought-provoking. Let me feel that question, because you don't really want, the answer is not going to help you if you get an answer right away. Right. You don't really appreciate that answer. But if you sit with the question and let it burn a little, then when you get the answer, it's really means something. Right.
He would even double down on it. He'd be like, let's make that even better.
Right.
And that's actually the classic Rebbe line. You're saying good, but as opposed to answering it. And I think that you're so right. Like, sit with the question. Even I think that's a lot of what Gemara does. Gemara gets you into that place where you have to really sit. What is the question? Where was this rabbi coming from that he made this statement? Like, what was going on? What's the background? Where did he come from? Rabbi Gersey loves to do that, right? The first Gemara in all of Shas, Me'ei Masai. Like, what is going on? It probably took me. I probably still don't get it, but I think I'm up to this point in my life, and I kind of feel like all of history started when I was born. You know that feeling? It's just like the whole world.
I mean, when I was a kid, yeah, but hopefully at some point you grow out of that one, but yeah.
Right.
Maybe it's all a scam just for me,
Right. We're kind of growing out of it, and then we're realizing, wait, there's something that's going on here. There's some bigger picture. I think it comes also when, recognizing our mortality, but I think the questions of life, that I think that's also been probably the foremost propulsion of the trajectory of my life.
So I think that, I hear you. I think that for a lot of people, and definitely people who grew up in the Orthodox world, they've been sitting with that question for a while, and At least when I was that age. I mean, it could be that there's more answers available. It's easier to search. There's an internet now, whatever. But for me, that was cooking for a long time. That was cooking for at least, at whatever. At least from the time that I could think, I don't know. At least if not before 12 or 13, definitely by then, but probably before that too, truth is. So when I got to be 18, 20, whatever, 17, 18, so like I was like definitely I was looking for it. I was looking for it. And I think and I'm going to assume I'm not alone. I'm not saying it's everybody. There are people just like coasting through, even to this day. I don't know how people go to, I said this to a rabbi of mine once, a long time ago, like, I don't know how people go to, spend, I don't know, 12 hours a day or more, like just working with papers, shuffle around papers and like, just like normal jobs that probably many of us have. I don't, thank God, but many of us have. And I'm just like, I don't know how people, I don't know. I don't relate to that. I appreciate it. I understand the different souls, and that's good for people, and I get fulfillment from that, and whatever. It just for me, it's hard for me to relate to that.
I think that's why there's such a big entertainment industry.
Oh yeah, right. Well, okay. I guess we need to pacify life, but for me, like, look, a lot of people, I don't know. So like when I was that age, yeah, I would see people who were more serious about, I don't know, discovering these things or just getting into what's important in life, whatever that might be. And then other people are just like, just coasting, I don't know. It just didn't appeal to me so much. I mean, I get the vibe a little bit, and I can do that for X amount of time, but that X is very, very short. Before it's just like, okay, what the hell am I doing, with my time, my life, whatever.
Who did you look up to as a kid? Because like when you're bringing these ideas up from a very young age, you were looking for these things. Was there anybody when you were young that you felt brought that passion about something, about Judaism or about anything? Did you ever bump into somebody that kind of lit the fire for you?
I don't know, not really, to be honest with you. I don't know. I feel much more like when I got to Israel, I feel like I met more people like that. And just where I was coming from.
What got you to Israel?
No, I mean, for me, it was like it was a normal thing to do. Like a lot of people are coming, a lot of people from my background, yeah, that kind of thing. So that's how I ended up getting here. And then once I was here, I kind of poked around other places. Like I tell you, I found Rabbi Michael Burger and Eshet Torah. It wasn't normal for me, a person like me, to walk into Eshet Torah. That wasn't a normal thing.
Where were you in that gap year?
I was here in the Old City. I was in the Old City in a program called Raice, which is now in Beit Shemesh, which used to be now it's a palace in Beit Shemesh. Now it's a rat hole. Before it was a rat hole in the Old City. And
a rat hole in the Old City is ganz fine.
Exactly.
I've spent Shabbos in that rat hole in the Old City. It's quite beautiful.
No complaints. Oh yeah, you didn't stay in the door where the dorms were at the time, but that I guarantee. But anyway, it was. So yeah, it was good. I mean, I went into that place, at least at the time. I don't know what's going on now. They're all good people, but I just, it's been a long time since then. But back then it was like a place where I know I was going to be laughing while I was going to be learning. It was very relatable. It was very down to earth. And so that appealed to me. And so then once I was there, I found my way to Torah. I don't know how. I don't remember. Yeah, that's it. I don't know. I was involved with I ended up working with the Discovery program at that time. I actually just got involved with the Discovery program actually this year again. I got re-involved with them. So anyway, that's that part of the journey.
Wow.
Okay, I think that maybe takes us to. I've been when Yehuda and I were talking about what we wanted to discuss with you today. So I know that you do a lot with you. Stumbling over my words here. I know you've done a lot with Birthright groups that come through, right? How involved are you with Birthright?
So with Birthright, I'll tell you what happened. So I always try to find my way try to get myself into places or programs which don't really have like Jewish stuff that doesn't really actually have anything Jewish going on in that, quote unquote Jewish program. Let's just call it a Jew-ish program. Or a program that it entails Jews, but not much Jewishness going on there. And so I try to kind of like weasel my way in there one way or another, either from a self-help angle or from a Kabbalah angle. So anyway, thank God, whatever, I got into different programs along the way, Young Judea, and even that, how I got in there is a great story also. But Young Judea, and then Young Judea, I got from there into another program called Widges, which I don't think exists anymore. I'm not sure if maybe it does. I don't know. But anyway, these were programs that bring Jews to Israel, and don't necessarily. I mean, they try to do things that are like Zionistic and Jewish flavored and stuff like that. Very quote unquote pluralistic, which usually means anything but Orthodox. But in this particular case, I actually also allowed one of those Orthodox Jews in there, and so anyway. People started coming back as madrichim, madrichot on Birthright after the fact, right? So they would come afterwards, and so then, I would stay in touch with them. And then when they were coming back, I'd be like, "Yo, let's see if you can get me into like to speak or whatever." And so then I started getting into speak in different places. Actually, the first place I got into was run by a tour guide by the name of Maxi Katzir. They actually made a Simpsons episode of this guy. You might have seen it. I don't know. But anyway.
Shut your face. That one?
I don't know. But you can find it. They made a Simpsons character about him when the Simpsons came to Israel or something. I don't know. But anyway, he actually was like, I think he was on the radar in Entebbe or something, and he was like a big guy. But then, and so he pawned me, he spun me off onto he enjoyed me and whatever. And so he spun me off onto other tour guides. And then I started coming back to his trips, the other tour guides' trips. And then those guys, I always tried to look into more angles and who knows who and try to get more and more connections. And then after a while, I'm like, you know what, instead of starting from the bottom, why don't I try to just go to the top? And so walk in the front door. And so I made an arrangement to meet with one of the people up in the Birthright office, and so beforehand, I got myself all ready for this meeting. I put a bunch of words down on paper that I wanted to spice in my conversation with him. Pluralistic, modern, universal, holistic, self-help, all these different modernish words, and so thank God, met with him and met him for a half hour, whatever, and at the end he said, "Well, we're a pluralistic organization, so I guess that includes you too." And so thank God, he gave me reshut. He gave me a little stamp of approval or whatever. And so then I was able to officially approach different, different Birthright providers. And so thank God, I've been blessed to speak to, thank God, thousands of people through that. And especially also, sometimes I just grab groups here in the old city. I grab tour guides. I spent, summers doing that. And then once you make a connection, if you make a connection with the tour guide likes you. So then if that tour guide takes 5 groups over the summer, that's 250 people right there. You know what I mean? So I would try to get in from the top, from the organizations. I would also try to just get in from the tour guide who's, I find, at a lunch break right here in the old city. So, so thank God. So, and then, then I built through that also. I gained a lot of contact information, just different people. And so now I built also Baruch Hashem big email list and whatever. So that's it. That's my Birthright operation. And good times.
So the reason why I'm asking you about that and why I connected it to the past conversation is because from what I understand about Birthright, like you said, it's Jewish. So I'm not really sure what their goal is. I guess to give people a connection to Israel.
I mean, I think if you ask people there, you get asked 5 people, you're going to get 5 answers. I think some people it's strengthen Jewish connection. Other people it's strengthen connection to Israel. Other people it's make them donors to Israel. Other people it's get them to make Aliyah. There's and by the way, it could be that someone will say, yeah, all of those, they're all good. Get them more active in the Jewish community in America politically, whatever. And those all sound like good. They all sound good to me. So it probably might be more effective if they have a direct goal, and maybe they do amongst themselves that I don't know about, but the essence seems to be, because you have to understand also there's the way it works, and I don't know if we're going to bore people with how the Birthright structure works. It's going to be a pretty boring conversation, but there's a head office, and then there's a bunch of different people, tour providers who can. So those tour providers are going to have their own agenda, right? So Birthright makes sure that they're kind of fulfilling certain requirements. But OU is OU and Chabad are going to have very different agenda than a a secular program. And then there's other secular programs which just don't even care because they're going to give me $4,000 a kid. I'm going to get as many kids as I can, and just try to have a good time. So they tell people to go on our trip, like no agenda at all. So, I'll tell you one thing about them. I'll tell you one thing is that the tour guides are really good. That I'll tell you. The tour guides, a lot of people think, especially in the religious world, there's like this feeling I think out there that like a lot of tour guides are like that they hate religion or they hate Judaism. And I'll tell you, almost never did I find that. Almost they were much more open and receptive to incorporating, like for example, me in the program off the street. So I found them to be very open, very receptive. Okay, good. Let's hear another angle. Let's hear another perspective or whatever. You're not going to, and obviously I don't talk about politics or anything like that. It's totally not my thing. I'm not going to say anything controversial. It's all going to be like,
vanilla.
Lovey-dovey unicorns and rainbows and butterflies and all that. So maybe not rainbows actually, but butterflies and unicorns. So, so I will say that, and they're good, and they know a ton. So, I mean, they're just like professors without offices. These guys, they really do. They really know a lot. So, I just wanted to share that as well.
So, Birthright group comes to Israel for however many days, 10 days or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Let's say you get connected to one of those groups. You get what, 45 minutes an hour with that group? I
mean, sometimes I would. At the beginning, that's what I would do. At the beginning, I would go to their hotel on Shabbos, and I would have groups. Sometimes I would have groups back to back, because like the tour guide I know would say, "Oh, I know another 3 groups here. Let me go talk to them." And I'd have groups back to back, and maybe sometimes I would do Havdalah with them or whatever. But as I wanted, now I noticed that the shorter I take with them, the more receptive they are, because a lot of times in the rush, they're coming through the old city or they're coming through this, they don't have time. So I have to make it as as easy as. So I would cut it down sometimes. A lot of times I'd cut it down to 15 minutes, try to give a good message, and try to get some contact info so that I can, send them whatever emails once a week for the rest of their lives. You know what I mean?
Right. So
I also would offer like quote unquote crash course in Kabbalah courses afterwards and stuff like this online that I would do. Yeah.
So what would you say I'm just trying to understand. Your goal is then just to make a connection that hopefully to continue with them afterwards at some point, or just to open something up, to spark something?
Yeah. Ideally. I mean, ideally people want to stay in touch, and there are people obviously I'm still in touch with. There are people who've come back to Israel, people I'm in touch with who are still in America or whatever. Baruch Hashem, people are, I would connect them to other programs. They're going back to university. I would try to, and they want something, I connect them to a Chabad there or somebody there, or in a community or in a city. So like all sorts of,
So that's really cool. That could be from just a 15-minute, whatever, little sikha or speech or some presentation. You make connections with people that lead on and
that hopefully have an effect. Yeah, hopefully have an effect. Yeah. I mean, that was, hopefully bring them back ultimately on some other more, Jewish outreach oriented trip afterwards, so thank God, it's a lot. It's very like minute and detailed and tiring when you don't see the, depending on the amount of results that you're feeling at that particular moment, it can, because it's like it's a lot of work for a limited amount of time. And then like getting into the details and following up, and so it's the whole thing.
What would you consider like a success story? Do you have?
So I mean, look, there's different people, different things. If you introduce someone, I don't know. It's hard to gauge, because on the one hand you could say, a guy he gets into it, he goes to yeshiva, he learns. Okay, great. Like, there's those. But if you hold on to that, if that's the only gauge of success, I don't know how you're gonna personally be satisfied with that. And also these things take time. So I mean, if I'm able to still be connected, if I'm able to have someone come in for a follow up, it's an ongoing process, right? It's an ongoing process. It doesn't happen overnight, right? So I mean, some of the people who are changing their lives, changing potentially who they marry,
dealing with human beings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Like you were saying before, it's not just v'yadata hayom, it's also v'hashivos elav avecha. And v'yadata hayom is like, you can know today, you can have clarity today. But hashivos elav avecha doesn't say hayom, because that's the rest of your life, right? You have to be hashivos elav avecha. So, so there are stories, but the point is that you know, to do whatever we can do, and then you know, God has to take care of results. That's his job. I don't do results. Can't
Right, but
control results.
in a certain sense, it's like if you don't have those little, like you see that what you did helped or worked. I'm not even talking about a success
I
story,
agree
like,
with
oh,
you.
he came back and he's now
Yes,
learning
yeah.
in Cole. That's not what I mean. I mean, just
Yeah.
even just the sense that people that you've made the connections and now you have relationships with people, and like that's,
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have that, it's how do you keep going?
I agree with you. I'm I agree with you. So yeah, there is, like, you know, I don't know, you look, you know,
Yeah,
I
listen,
agree 1,000%. You
and
you
people,
need to have a certain level of sipuk for sure. Huh?
I
You heard
think
what I said?
just for a person to come to Eretz Yisrael and have an experience here, and that experience in whatever way, if it impacts their life in a positive way, of even just, you know, creating more of an Jewish identity, more open to Jewish ideas, that affects people to, you know, marry Jewish
Right.
and
So
just keep that Jewish identity, and let their kids, you know, even if when their children want to have an interest in Judaism and express and explore, it's there's some context that they could put it in, and having a positive, good experience coming to Israel. That's why I think Birthright and many of these organizations, even if they're very parav, so to speak, and they're not really pushing, but that it just gives a somewhat of a framework that it's like you have, because sadly you have so many people that don't even know what Israel is. They've never even tasted it on a small level.
Yeah, I hear that. And I think it's super important. But on the other hand, you and I both know that an experience that you had in your youth, if you didn't continue with it, you didn't, you know, it very quickly fades away. Like you said at the beginning, you know, the Dordeo, it was experience of, you know, Har Sinai, which is like must have been better than Birthright, probably. I'm assuming, probably is more like.
Well, they weren't in Israel though, you know.
That's true. But then, you know, 40 days later, it was like, you know, let's dance around the idol with, you know, with the ladies.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, it's true what you're saying on the one hand. Listen, all of these different angles are true. On the one hand, it's like, yeah, it could contextualize something for the future. It's planting seeds, etc. You don't know where it's going. There is that. There's also the reality that if you look at the statistics, you're talking about intermarriage rate going close to 80% probably at some point soon. So, you know, not to mention the fact that 30% of the people come on Birthright are probably non-Jewish halakhically anyway. So, you know, it's, you know, at this point, barring the coming of Mashiach, recognize the fact that we're, like, you know, plucking out the last group of people that we can pluck out before things close down. You know, I mean,
Armageddon.
yeah, maybe spiritual Armageddon. Unless you want to say that, listen, everyone's, you know, Tinek Shenishba, and status is not so bad. I don't know, but these aren't my calculations, you know.
Can I ask you a question, an opinion question? You've spoken to many Jews, right, from all different backgrounds. What would you say is the biggest? I'll tell you, when I was going through my years, I remember at one point I was very much in the question of, you know, logical questions, and then I realized that for many people, it was a matter of really dealing with the emotional side. Obviously, you always need to deal with the brain and the heart, and it's always a question of how much. But what would you say is the biggest issue that people are having in you know, with the guys and girls that you're bumping into? What's the biggest issue? What's the biggest issue with Judaism, or what's the biggest issue maybe in life? Like you say, you know, actually it's not a Judaism issue, it's just a life issue. What would you say they're facing?
I mean, right now I'm definitely on the trip that you're on, which is emotional intelligence. I'm definitely on that train right now. But that doesn't negate all the other stuff. Meaning, it is harder to find a kli that is ready to hear about, you know, the truth of Judaism nowadays than, let's say, it was 20 years ago. Right now, it's going to be more about going into myself and, you know, the whole mindful trip and all that. And how we see that in Judaism, and how we're able to provide that experience in a Jewish context. And I'm definitely seeing that there's much more of an openness in that arena than let's say in people who are asking real questions and stuff like this, right? That's definitely where I see things at this particular moment.
So what do you think is the question that they're grappling with? Like, not everybody, but like, the vast numbers of people that are grappling with a question. Is it, Jews, being different than other people, and the need that everybody needs to kind of be the same. There's like,
yeah, I think I was going to say something along those lines. Like, what? Who cares? It's all like there's Chinese people have chicken lo mein, and so we have gefilte fish. Like, what's the, like what's the difference? What's the difference? Who cares? Who cares? What's the difference?
do
Right?
people have a greater issue being okay with their unique identity? Like the fact is
Yeah,
that,
I mean, nowadays that's called racist, right? Nowadays that's called racist. So you have to dance around. I believe you have to dance around certain things, and that's always been the way it is. You have to dance, meaning like in all education, you're not able to. Not everyone is ready to hear everything or to take on everything as they want or any particular day. So, and that's okay. So it doesn't mean the hiding from the truth. It just means giving people what they're ready to hear at the particular moment that they're open and receptive to hearing it. Right? Like David Aaron.
are you getting pushback when you talk to people about Judaism, and are you getting pushback that people are like,
No, I don't get pushback because I don't go there. No, I don't get pushback because I don't go there. I don't go there. I don't go there because see, a lot of people, there are people who like want to challenge other people's ideas, right? They want to say like, okay, this guy, he's going to come in believing this, so let me challenge him or show him why he's wrong or like prove him, whatever. It's just like, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't help anything. I find at least the best is to show like the thing, show a bunch of stuff that this guy actually already agrees with and show like, look, this is what Judaism says. And then add one Jewish little twist to it, add one Jewish something to it. And then it could be like, oh, okay, so Judaism isn't crazy. It agrees with the X, Y, or Z. And then there's also like this added aspect to it. Like let's take something like mindfulness or meditation or something like that, or Buddhism and all of that, right? So there's a line that's out there, that's a good quote, which is like where Buddhism ends, Judaism begins, right? Okay, you don't want to say that maybe at the beginning, but the end of a long conversation about different aspects of what Buddhism wants to do in terms of getting you outside of your selfish ego and all these different things that it wants to do and get you to a place of a certain openness or nothingness or whatever, and then to be able to say, okay, like Judaism has all of this. We have our own, that's Yetzias Mitzrayim. We have our own Mitzrayim that we want to get out of, and different things that are pulling us, whether it be physical servitude, emotional servitude, psychological servitude, spiritual servitude. And then we get to our personal place. We have to leave our personal desert. We get to after we leave our personal exile, our personal Egypt. We get to our personal desert, our personal place of true openness, of true nothingness, of true open-mindedness, right? But then that's the place that we say, okay, now that I'm free from all of this other stuff, what am I going to be free for? Okay, so now it's like, okay, I agree with everything you're saying, and Judaism has this other thing to add to it, right? I think that's a message that's much more easy for people to receive, and also you don't end up being a jerk, which is also highly helpful too, right?
What a nice added benefit.
Yeah, and so like to go, I
also
think,
a Jewish thing. The Jews believe in that.
What, to not be a jerk? There's a time where truth calls for that, but it doesn't always have to call for that. Sometimes it's truth calling for that. Sometimes it's you or your ego calling for that. So, yeah, that's how I see it at least. So like in my house, for example, we have Shabbat meals and stuff like that. Yeah, there's certain things. People like, people come in and they hang, and we have, Baruch Hashem, we've been blessed to have, thousands of people over the years for Shabbat meals, easily over 10,000 people, maybe over 20,000 people for Shabbat meals over the years. So people think that like, oh yeah, go to the Deutsches, it's like, we're chilled and like anything, basically like anything goes, and like it's like open house, and it's just like, no, I have like, there's certain things that there's certain things that I would, for example, shut, like anything political, I will shut down right away, right? And if people, and I certainly won't talk about anything like that, right? If you say the name George W. Bush, right now, people, it's hard to believe this, right? But if you say the name George W. Bush back in the day when he was president, that's it. You're done. You're done. They've just put in their mind you have a Hitler mustache, and that anything else you are going to say, they can't hear it because it came out of Hitler's mouth.
Must have gotten only worse since then.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. So I'm saying, like, the George Bush is like, oh, who cares about him, right? Like, you don't remember anymore, because now with Trump, it's like, forget about it. It's a million times worse. You're right. But the point is, this is nothing new. What's going on now is nothing new. It was the same thing with Bush, and I'm sure it was the same thing before that as well. So, so like there's certain things that's just like, yeah, like, what is your goal? What is your goal? Is your goal to make a political point, or is your goal to get this person closer to Judaism? People get stuck in like getting passionate about the political thing of the moment. It's just like, I don't care about the political thing of this moment. I care that this person has Jewish kids. You know what I mean? I care that this person, or just gets closer to Judaism, to Jewish soul, or Jewish soul, whatever. Like what is your goal? And stay attached to that, and not in the way, God forbid, of de-individualizing it, not in the way of like not caring about the person, but standing for that person, right? Standing for the person, standing for their legacy, whatever. Each person is, on their own, is themselves, yes, and then also, God willing, kids, grandkids, great grandkids, right? There's certain Musar Sfarim, I forget which, maybe it's Chavot or Levavot, I forget. There's a couple of different like Musar Sfarim which say that that the tzaddikim are jealous of somebody who gets somebody else to keep Shabbat. Why? Because every Shabbat they ever keep, every mitzvah, whatever, a person becomes religious, whatever, everything that they keep, their kids keep, their grandkids keep, it's going into your interest, is going into your account, you know what I mean? And so hopefully it's not all selfish, but can I say it's not, that there's no piece of selfishness there? I don't know, man. I don't know.
You're not a saint, but you're a darn good guy. We'll give you that.
Right, okay.
Right. Yeah. But anyway, selfishness, I feel like from all my interactions with you and the way you describe that you have this passion to help people connect, selfishness is, yourself is a lot bigger than just you. That's what I feel like. I feel like you have a vision that yourself is the Jewish people. So selfishness is like, I want this person who's part of me, part of the Jewish people, to be in a better place, a healthier place, a more connected place.
Oh man, hopefully
I drink beer because I care about my stomach. Like, I want my stomach to also get enjoyment.
Beautiful. There you go. Ultimate selfishness. Speaking of drinking beer, I'm pour myself another glass of wine here.
Nice.
Time.
Rabbi Eli, I wanted to also ask you, as you're dealing with this and you're helping all these people, it's like almost like the initial propulsion of a rocket to get out of, the orbit, like you said, like breaking out of your own Mitzrayim, etc. But how do you juxtapose that with raising your family in the old city and helping them like with their own spirituality? Like, how do they experience these Shabbos meals when you're probably talking about a lot of the same topics again and again? And also for yourself, meaning how are you sustaining your own inner fire when you're kind of doing this and understandably so? But like, how do you feed that fire within yourself and your kids?
So it's a great question, and different times, different stages, it can be complex. Firstly, it's awesome because I don't age. All right, I started working with people in their 20s when I was about 19, and now I'm still working through my 20s. I still feel like I'm the same age, which is awesome.
Sounds like a line from
Dazed and Confused.
From Dazed and Confused. You ever see that movie?
No, heard of it. Was it from the 90s or something?
Yeah.
No, I didn't see it. I didn't see it. No.
How's the line go?
I love these high school girls. I keep getting older. They stay the same age. But the fact is, it's not really true. I feel like I stay the same age and kids are getting younger and younger.
There's truth to that as well. There's no question about that. But so I mean, it's thank God my wife is supportive of it, and she's also involved in it. She's also involved in it, and like there's times where we're tag teaming and stuff like this. She has her stuff. She's also involved with relationship coaching and things like this. I am as well. We'll talk about that maybe later. But there's a support for it, Baruch Hashem. I mean, there's times where I'm traveling in America and speaking and stuff like that. My wife takes that on. Right now, my wife's been on speaking trips of her own, and I take that on. And a lot of times people will ask, like, isn't that a big deal? And there's room to say it's a big deal. There's another room to say that, like, whatever it is, like, you do it, and then at the end you have done it, if that makes any sense, right? A lot of times people have this issue with flying, right? The problem is a lot of times when there's certain things that we want to do is that we really, we want to try to do something other than the thing that we're supposed to be doing. Like a lot of times, like parents, especially fathers, experience this with kids, right? That like it becomes a headache when really I'm trying to pacify them and do something else. That's when I get annoyed, right? If I'm involved with them and I want to be involved with them, so beseder, it's good, you know. If I'm trying to do something else, example I like to give when I bring this up is a plane, right? People a lot of times take their kid, you know, especially families will go on, especially if you have a person has a bigger family, and it'll be like, oh my God, we're going to be on a 10-hour flight right now from Israel to America, America to Israel, whatever it is. And the problem, the reason what makes it difficult is because people want, instead of being on, they want to be off, right? Like, so a lot of people, they think like, I'm going to go to the airport. It's going to be 2.5, 3 hours through the airport from the beginning of the airport to when I sit down on the plane. And then I'm going to finally, you know, be going with the stroller and the bags. And then I'm going to get into the plane. I'm going to put everyone in their seat. I'm going to slap the headphones on the thing. And then I'm good for 10 hours. And a lot of times that's how parents think about it. And so then they get frustrated when that's not reality. And the problem is that they're thinking I'm on for 3 hours. No, if you go into it thinking I'm on for 13 hours, I'm on for 13 hours right now. Then if you get an hour off, or if you get a number of hours off, you're like, all right, that went pretty well. The problem is that we're trying to pacify, we're trying to go from I'm on to I'm off. And when we do that, that's when the frustration kicks in, and that's when, and you know, and I see it like I say all the time. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I can sit here and preach about it, but and thank God I'm pretty good about it. But there's definitely times where it's just like, you know, I want to get this thing done. I have some article I want to get done. I want to promote something or whatever, and it has to get done now. And I'm supposed to also be taking care of, watching over kids or whatever for whatever reason, right? And like, I get annoyed. I'm going to get annoyed because I'm trying to not do the thing I'm supposed to be doing right now, which is, right, I'm trying to pacify the kids and shut that down so that I can do the thing I want to do. And I'm in that headspace, so it's not good, right? Then that's when the trouble comes. So anyway, I'm not sure if this really answers your
That's
question.
a really good point, but a 13-hour shift is really hard.
It can be, but it's doable. I mean, personally, I'm telling you from experience. I've done it. Thank God, my kids are not the most difficult kids, Baruch Hashem.
Right.
I'll be honest about that. My kids aren't lunatics. I mean, they're not as wild as other kids. There's no doubt about that. I'll be honest. But I'm just that's how I do it. I've taken kids on planes by myself without my wife before numerous times. So. It's doable. Listen, right now I got my kids for almost 3 weeks right now, just myself, you know. Do I get some help from some older ones? Yeah, sometimes, you know, and I'm in a place right now where my boys are younger, my girls are older, which in case anyone doesn't know, like the boys when they're younger make you physically exhausted, and the girls when they're older make you emotionally exhausted. I got both of those going on right now. But so it is what it is. And then at the end of the day, whatever. And at the end of the day, after the fact, no one's going to die, God willing, right? No one's going to die. Like, everyone makes like the biggest deal, you know. It's like, look, whatever, time will pass and it'll be over and it's okay.
But let me ask you, yeah.
I know this went away from the cure of.
No, that's good. We were going away from the cure of question.
No, I love the point you made. I think like it's such an important point for the broader picture of why we have children in the first place. Everyone has kids, and some people it's like we have kids because we want, you know, there's an overall focus of this is my goal. I'm raising children, raising human beings. This is where I want to be. Is it difficult sometimes or a lot of the time? Yeah, but this is where I want to be. I want to be raising children. I want to be involved in their life. I want to be a parent. Then there's people who kind of have kids. They're not even sure why. It's like, well, because that's what you do. I got married and I have kids, and now I have to figure out how to avoid dealing with them as much as possible. You know, how do I avoid the issues that they create as much as possible in my life? So I love the way you made that those two angles.
Yeah, changing the mindset definitely changes the playing field.
So is that how it is for you? Like, when, you know, to bring it back to the original question of like.
Yeah. So let's talk about. Let's get back to the original question, right? The original question.
Let's reframe the question.
How does this affect?
Can I reframe the original question just because of where we got to now? After that 13-hour trip, right? Mm-hmm. You're now, are you wiped out?
I don't think so. I don't
You
think
don't
I'm
think
wiped
so?
out. I don't think I'm wiped out. I mean, I'm wiped out anytime you get off a plane.
Right.
There's an element of there's
I'm
tiredness.
curious. I'm curious. So I'm curious. Let's get a little personal. I'm curious. What do you do to rejuvenate? Rejuvenate spiritually, rejuvenate physically, rejuvenate emotionally. Like, where do you draw from? You're this amazing teacher, and you're giving so much, but you're
Slow
giving
down.
over. No, you are. Let's be real. We don't have to, um, and you're giving over a lot, but you're teaching a lot, which is a lot of the same material, a lot of that, like we said, that initial propulsion to get out of your old life. But you're now out of it. You're now living life as a Jew. You're now a dad, and you're doing the whole thing. Where do you draw? How do you get refreshed when you're burning out? What do you go shoot pool? You go swim in a pool? I don't like what I'm curious. Like Ellie, let's leave Ellie the Jew aside. Now let's get to Ellie the human. What's
The
his
secular.
yeah? Where do you get your rejuvenation?
I don't know. I don't know. What comes to mind just for a minute is that there was for a very long time there was really not much of anything that I would do, and quite frankly, I didn't feel like I needed it. But recently, what's it called? I went on a trip 2 years ago. Went on a trip to the Dead Sea, and found my way into some pool with like Dead Sea water, but like actually a pool, not actually in the Dead Sea. I'm not quite sure if you've seen such things. And immediately when I got in there, I was like, this has been missing in my life. You know what I mean? I was like, oh my, I need to be here. I need this. And whatever. So I'd love to, love to go. I'd love to say I check it out once a month, but it's more like once a year at the moment. But for me, that was something that was refreshing. I don't know why it just comes to my mind, but I guess that means there's something real there. But independent from that, like, I don't know. I don't have time for this. I don't have so much time for this. I don't know. I'd love to say like meditation and all that, which but even if I do that, it's more of an avoda. That's not my place of self-care, if you will. In terms of refreshing, in terms of learning, and in terms of like making a more fresh message. So then, I do appreciate to go from, kind of like one Hasidic book to another in terms of going through it. Like a lot of times people pick up these books and they'll be like, oh, it's Parsha Naso this week. Let me go to Parsha Naso and read. Like, that is not like, I did that for maybe like a year or two, like 20 years ago. And I was just like, this is just like, I don't feel like I'm doing anything at the end of the day here. And so I started picking up books and really going from cover to cover. I think you also like to do that if I remember correctly. I don't remember, but
Rabbi Gersey taught us that.
Yeah, okay. So I think I was already doing it before.
You did it before?
Before the Rabbi Gersey days. But yeah, so that's something that I enjoy and helps to add elements and add ideas and add angles and just deepen. I don't know, like make it more fruitful, whatever it is I already have. And in terms of just like a repetitive message there definitely is sometimes a repetitive message. So it's good for the new people and for the other people who might be there who've heard stuff before. So some people are strengthened by it, and then maybe other people get bored of me. I don't know. But I tell you what, it's funny though when my kids start finishing my sentences for me, that becomes really hilarious. But that just means that like I got to switch it up a little bit.
But that's a good sign too.
It is.
Because sometimes, sometimes you might think your kids are bored of you and whatever, and they've heard it a million times. But what it really means is it's gone in so deep that it's going to come out later.
Right. So that's what I hope. That's what I hope. It's funny. Like I have a kid who likes to, always argue with me and yell at me about everything. But then a year later, 2 years later, I hear them saying over the phone the same stuff I was saying to them a year ago that they were yelling at me about, or whatever. They're telling their friend, like they're talking out, they're yelling at the friend, but they're yelling from, the thing that I said to them. You know what I mean? So whatever. That's called, I guess it's called a teenager. I don't know,
But we have that also. Like our father, he has consistent Torahs that he said over the years many times, and
right.
And he advances it over the years. Like we'll give a new angle, but it's the same thing. It's the same core values, and those are things that when you're a kid, okay, I heard it a million times, and as you get older, it's part of your identity. It's part of how you think.
So that's what I'm hoping for. The concern is if they feel like it's a show. That's the concern. That's the concern. So I don't know. Look, it's all it's too early to tell. It's all a work in progress. Like, it's very easy for me to say one thing or another, but one pattern I do notice with my kids is that, like, different ages are different things. Different ages are different stages, and like they could be the top kid on fire or whatever at a certain age. At like there's certain ages to know, like, this is a great age, I'm going to enjoy this. And then I'm like, but then it's like, okay, it's coming closer to 12 years old. I'm bracing myself now for what's coming next. And so, like, for example, now, like, my third kid is 10 years old, right? And she's awesome and wonderful. In the meantime, I'm like doing my best to give this kid, pump them up with much love and hugs and all sorts of wonderful stuff that I can right now, because I know it's coming.
Listen, I think kids
gotta
more
load
than
them up as
anybody
much
can
as
sniff.
possible. Go ahead.
I think kids more than anybody can sniff the fakeness. And you know, when I know,
I don't know, but
kids,
hold on a second. You're already assuming that I'm for real. You're already assuming I'm for real. Maybe I appreciate that, but maybe I'm not. Maybe partially it isn't. Maybe there is a show there. Maybe there's ego there. Maybe there, I don't know.
Listen, if you're full of BS, then they know it already. And if it's some of it, well, we all have a little bit of it. You know what I mean? Like even when, you know, I forgot who it was who said it, that even when you learn Torah, you still got to go to the bathroom afterwards, because there's always some solet. You know, there's always something that you need to do a birrer on. And I think that's part of it. I happens to be something that I'm very real with my kids about. You know, the fact, like, they know that I'm not perfect. They know it probably better than anybody else. Yeah. But the truth is that I'm real with it, and I'm also real about the fact that, hey, I'm real with my strong points, and I think that's important with everybody. Like, I'm willing to call my kids out and say, hey, this is something that you need to fix, you need to work on, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't affect the fact that you're strong in other areas. And I think that's an essential lesson of all human beings, to be able to recognize in their family and their parents that, like, we are all human beings.
Yeah, I think if you can get that. Sorry, go ahead. I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, that's a mission of us that your Zaida says. Kol hayilud sefer lamos. So your Zaida, the Maral, says
our Zaida.
Yaakov just told me it's our Zaida too, so I guess we're cousins. So so he said it means that basically anybody who's born by nature, there's no human being that ever was able to procreate and create another child. No two human beings are able to create a child with purely holy intentions, because if they did, they wouldn't have been able to actually do it. and so therefore there's always going to be that aspect that needs to, that's a kol hayilud. Anybody who's born of human parents, Saifa Lamos, is going to have to die, because they have to return that piece back down to whence it came. So I think that's like a really important lesson.
Original sin.
Yeah. Well, no. Well, I think that's the idea, is that Adam really didn't need to sin, right? Because he wasn't born from that, from that desire, so to speak, or whatever it is. But I think that it's like a really important lesson to be able to be real with people, and for kids to know, hey, my parents aren't perfect.
So the thing is, though, I don't know how many kids. I don't know if kids are able to accept that at a level of kid. Yeah, when a person gets their 20s, hopefully they can get there and be like, oh, my parents just another imperfect person, and that's okay. A lot of times, I don't know. Maybe it depends on your upbringing. Maybe the more better your upbringing was, maybe the easier it is to accept that at first, as having time. Whereas people have a more difficult time, or maybe we're criticized more, or whatever. I don't know. I'm just guessing here. Maybe have more tainas and more like not willing to accept that. I don't know. But like, meaning to say, like, yeah, when a kid becomes an adult, definitely by their 20s, should be able to hopefully come to that. I don't know, though, if they're holding there by the time, when they're in it, when they're younger, when they're, I don't know if they're holding there. I don't know if they're holding in such a mature perspective of, like, my parent is a person, and I cannot accept perfection from them, and they're another person with flaws, and like, that's okay, and like, a person's going to be a person, and that comes with some good sides and comes with some flaws. I don't know.
We need to make sure that your kids listen to this podcast.
Yeah, I don't mind my kids listening to this podcast.
I'm saying maybe just having this conversation. I know that it's a conversation that we have.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess all kids are different, but I don't I don't believe in shortchanging kids. Like, that's a conversation I have with my children all the time because, you know, and it's something we repeat all the time. People are people. We all make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. I make mistakes. You make mistakes.
Yeah, we do have that attitude in my house, no doubt about it. The question is how much it gets in. You know what I mean? Like, you could say a bunch of stuff, and like you said, it's going to come around at the other end. Yes. Question is where they're at now. Don't know.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
You know, I have to, and this is like a funky segue, but I saw this interesting post today on Sefer Apunim on the Facebook, and it kind of really annoyed me. So I figured I was going to throw it at you and hear your response. I think I might have actually even brought it up. Maybe I can even share it with you quickly. I'm going to get this real fast. Real fast. All right, I'm going to throw this up on the screen. Can you see this?
Yeah, there's no talent.
There's no talent here. This is hard work. This is an obsession. Talent does not exist. We are all equals as human beings. You could be anyone if you put in the time. You will reach the top, and that's that. I'm not talented. I am obsessed. Now, I want to share this. This is Conor McGregor, okay? I don't like Conor McGregor, even though people say that I look like him. But no.
Maybe that's why I don't like him.
Maybe that's why. No, I don't like. I'm into UFC, but I'm not into this, you know, this idea. But I'm not into him. Let me hear about what your thoughts are about this idea. What do you think of that? You think that's a truth?
I didn't even know who it was you said until I guess I didn't recognize the name at first. But yeah, my first gut reaction is BS. I call BS on that one. Like, no, you need to become Conor McGregor. You need to start off with like an orange tree can have a certain level of fruits that could be really full, awesome fruits, or there's going to be smaller. But at first, it needs to be an orange seed first. You know what I mean? You can't have an apple seed and then become an orange tree. It's not going to happen. You know, so I don't know. I don't think that's true. I don't agree with that. I think that person's like a seed. Adam Eitz HaSadeh, right? Person is given certain kochot, and then work like crazy for sure. But like, there's certain people who are going to get to be able to, that their physical potential, let's say lifting weights, physical potential is going to max out at some point. And other people, the max out point is going to be different, more or less, whatever. So yeah, I don't know if I'm buying that one. I don't know. Now, if you want to take some Jewish source, I'm sure you can find some Jewish source that when it comes to Torah, over the top, miracles can be done. Okay, fine. When it comes to Torah, maybe. But in terms of, I don't think Conor McGregor was talking about Torah.
But if it's the truth in reality, do some people have more of the capacity for religion or more of the capacity for spirituality than others?
Don't know. Maybe. What do you think? See what I did there?
Turning the tables. Yeah, I mean, personally, I do. I think that people are unique, and that they do not. I do not think that every person can be a Michael Jordan. I do not think that every person can be a Kobe Bryant. I do not think that every person can be a Conor McGregor. I think that's just because most people are not jerks. Burn. No, I'm joking. But I think that my personal feeling is that the reason why people can't be anything is because we are made differently, and even in spirituality. I think that even in Torah, I think that maybe.
Yeah, I wanted to leave the Torah thing on the side because I'm sure someone's going to come up with some source or something where it's just like Keter Torah is for anyone to take. Okay, shkoyach, I don't know. Fine, let's leave it. Right? There's a Pirkei Avos like that.
That's true, and I think that it is open for anybody to take and to get involved with. But there's definitely going to be, and I'll be honest with you, I think that maybe even that idea. Let's even talk about it. If you want to take that side of the argument,
I'm not taking a side of it. I'm just saying. What I'm saying is, I'm going to leave that piece aside. But like pretty much everywhere else, I'm going to say I don't know. The rest of it, because that would take a miracle, but fine. Besides, maybe God does miracles in these areas. Maybe these Makoros want to teach us that. Fine. But when it comes to pretty much anything else, I'm gonna agree with what you're saying, which is that like, no, people have different talents, people have different potentials, people have different things that they're have more of a nitya towards, and right? And even in Kabbalah, it talks about that each soul is is drawn from a particular place, from a particular midah, from a particular sphere, a particular mitzvah. So that means that we have there's certain individual places that we're set to go, and we're going to have more of a drive to go, and maybe we're more of a koach to go, and so yeah.
So have you ever had anybody come along and say, I just don't think religion's for me?
Right, of course I have people who say that, but according
What do you say to that?
What I say to that is it depends on the person. That's like there's many different answers a person can give to that.
But you just said that clearly different people are put in position for different things.
Doesn't mean that a Jew. If I said that definitely we say that a Jew, any Jewish soul put in this world has the soul strength to be a Jew who keeps Judaism on a basic level. That yes. Now more potential for one, more passion, more koach, more this or that. I don't know. I don't even try. I don't even go there. My goal isn't to make everyone Talmid Chacham or something, right? First, I would have to probably try to do that myself. But like if but every Jewish soul has the capacity to grow, to connect. And you know what? Does everyone have the capacity to be Shomer Torah Mitzvah? Probably, but that's not even the point because there's no reason to go that far. We have to just go to the next rung on the ladder. That's all we are responsible for in this moment. And so, yeah, you can look up and be like, okay, maybe my goal or some ideal or something is I want to be keeping stuff or whatever. But like for your average Jew who I meet to show up and be thinking that way, and it's just too much. I could look up to it and see it as some kind of ideal, but to feel like this is upon me right now is way too much. No way. So I could be like, okay, look, these guys are the ones who are. This is like what it looks like, maybe, or some kind of image, or what it really. I don't know. The more I get stuck in that image, probably not a good idea. Like, and let's get to right now. Can I be doing a little bit more tomorrow or today than I was yesterday? And that's the only way we grow. Everything else is just demionis. Everything else is just illusions. And we have no control over it. The past is the past, and it's all good because here we are. And the future, who knows what's going to be? But what can I do today? The same thing with any growth in any area, whether that be weightlifting, whether that be Judaism, whether that be quitting smoking or drinking or whatever you want to do, right? Because that's what breaks people. What breaks people is looking at the absolute and the no light at the end of the tunnel. If I go ahead and I say I'm quitting smoking, that means I'm never having another cigarette again. People can't handle that. Can you hold off for 24 hours? Okay, 24 hours I could do. Okay, let's do that. That's the only way we progress is made, I think. You know what I mean? There's such a thing as cold turkey that kind of work for some people at some certain points in their life. Yeah, okay. But in general, if you're talking about people making real change, usually it is I have to take it one day at a time and one moment at a time. And because that's all we have anyway, control of all that stuff. So I get stuck in that stuff. Why get stuck in the future and then no light at the end of the tunnel? I'm never gonna have a relief from this. I'm never gonna be able to let go and blankety blank, whatever the addiction is, whatever the thing is I'm trying to quit or trying to do that I'm telling myself not to do. All I can do is be like, okay, look, today, I don't know what tomorrow's gonna bring. Forget that. I don't know. But like right now, I'm not, having that drink or whatever it is. Speaking of which,
cheers.
Oh, it's funny the way you asked the question. I was just thinking a much simpler way. I'm not cut out for religion. Maybe it's just not me. Well, it's like, oh, you're just not cut out for emotional health. Like, so don't work on it. Like, oh, I'm not cut out for emotional health, so I'm just not going to work at it. I'm not cut out for spiritual health, so I'm not going to work on it.
No doubt. I was throwing that as an underhand softball pitch.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I mean, look, obviously the answer to that's not me is in many cases, not always, but in many cases, the answer is it's not you because you haven't done it. Do it, and then it'll be you. Right?
Yeah.
Right. No, my personal take, I agree with everything that you said, and I think that it's like I do believe though that at a certain point, all human beings are created for a relationship with the divine, especially all Jews, right? Adam.
Yeah.
And I believe that that's what we were put here for. We were put here to have a relationship with Hashem and to build that relationship. But my personal angle is that the way that I've come to it and from, my math teachers is that there's going to be a unique path that's for each one of us.
Mhm.
And that unique path does not necessarily in any way mean that I'm going to need to be like someone else. And in Torah, this has been something that I've put out as a challenge over the years to anybody who's interested. That I believe that everybody has their place in Torah, but it doesn't need to be to everybody. It doesn't need to be to every person in the same way. Not every person needs to be sitting and learning Gemara. Not every person needs to be learning Al-Shech. But within Torah, because it is so expansive and it includes so many different forms and different angles, each person needs to find where they uniquely fit in and what their unique relationship is. And the relationship with Hashem is not limited to a certain type of human being. And I guess I'm more of the Kobe Bryant guy, which is like, don't work it, find your unique talent, and then work it like a monster and never let it go, and just keep those. Choose the thoughts that you want to have. Choose the mind
Mindset.
frame that you want to have, and just work at it like a beast, and own the pain. I think that was probably one of the greatest lessons that I learned from Kobe Bryant. In comparison to Conor McGregor, which Kobe Bryant was like, you all want to be number 24 hitting that final jumper, but are you ready to be the first guy into the gym in the morning and the last guy out, and to work harder than every other person on the court, and to just work and work and work every day, even when you're on vacation, just to put in that incredible effort? I mean, I think that's been, I'll be honest with you, that was a lesson I think that I had from Michael Jordan as a kid, and from Kobe Bryant. They were actually both, in terms of workers that just worked like a beast. I think both have been incredible inspirations to me.
Beautiful.
They worked like crazy. There's very few people in the world that have worked as hard at what they're good at as they have.
Right, and so the Jewish inspiration, I think that we would take, and the yeshiva inspiration would be like, look, if they're doing it for something that's heaven, avalim.
I disagree. I think that they did it for something that was amazing. You know how much wealth and positive life it increased in the world? Michael Jordan brought basketball to the world. It increased the economy.
That was a residual effect. Effect. They were going, and I doubt that was.
I wouldn't even say it's residual effect. I think that's. Really? I'll be honest with you. People. Who was it? Antoninus asked Rebbe, "What's greater, God or man?" And what did Rebbe answer him? He said he just didn't say anything. He just pulled out a stalk of wheat, and he pulled out a nice, beautiful, awesome piece of garlic bread, right? And he didn't say anything. And so Antoninus goes, "Oh, I guess you're right." But I think that's really that's what Hashem wants, is that He put into this world all the good things that we have in the world today, is because human beings have perfected being a human, and we've shared knowledge and we've shared information, and we've created an incredible world. And that's what God wants from us, right? And guess what? Without basketball contributed to the positive economy. Sports, contributed. Greek philosophy, Roman, conquest. George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, even though they might have been slave owners, they also contributed to making an amazing country. And the fact is that we can recognize we can recognize the limitations, so to speak, that they had. Sorry for being political. But we can also appreciate the good things that have come out in life, and we need to recognize the progress of humanity in the world as accepting it for what it is. The same way.
I think you just said it right there. Accepting it for what it is, meaning to say that the way I take that is like, okay, they did what they did, and there's good that came from it. But what I'm saying is we can also draw a certain level of inspiration from it from a Jewish perspective, which is that like. They made a better world. We can also not only make a better world, but also grow in terms of spiritually or whatever. Like how many of us, obviously myself included, are working at our craft, if you will, with those hours and that effort that they did. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, there's something. There's spiritual growth in no matter what you do. When a person works on themselves and becomes dedicated to something. It's not like, just like a lesson for something else. Like it doesn't really apply to that, but it's a lesson
No. Also,
in itself. A guy who's willing, change yourself and become
put
a
mind over
better
matter.
person.
Yeah.
I love that. But I have to disagree with you.
Let's hear it.
Anything, if someone is not perfect in every way and they have any kind of flaw, it disqualifies everything they did in their entire life. Come on. You know, I know that. I don't want to hear those names. Washington, Jefferson.
And hence the fear that our kids are going to knock us out. Right?
There you go. There
But
you
if
go.
we, you know, if we taught the next generation to appreciate the good the goodness that's in the world, then we wouldn't be so quick to throw everything out, and we would just say, understandably, there are mistakes, and let's work and build on them.
Right. So there's ways you can say it. I'll tell you like something. Just the other day, I was very annoyed at one of my teenagers, and I was very annoyed. Like, you know, sometimes teenagers, you know how it can be difficult and rude and whatnot. But at the same time, my kid wanted a pair of headphones to listen to something or whatever while they were doing chores. So I said, here, take these. These are good. These are better. And so my kid says to me, no, you're using them and it wasn't just you're using them. It was like, you're upset at me. Why are you doing that? I said, I might be annoyed at you, but I still love you. I want you to have the best thing because I still love you. It doesn't make a difference. I want you to have the best headphones, even if I'm annoyed at you. It doesn't change anything. So it was like, I don't know. It's like, I feel like that's actually living what we're saying. You could say, I love you. You could say it's okay to make mistakes, but it's like, no, it really is. I'm still going to treat you the same, or I'll even treat you better after you make a mistake. And that makes a difference to a person in their life. It's like, it's not just my father says he loves me, but he was willing to, in the middle of being mad at me, give me the best thing.
I actually think that that's the difference between a human and an animal. The difference between a human and right, meaning an animal human will love you, and if he's pissed off at you, then he's pissed off at you, and that's all that he is. But a human is able to say, I'm so pissed off at you. I'm so angry at you. You're making me so frustrated, but yet I still love you, and therefore I still want the best for you, even though my blood is boiling. And I actually had an incident this week where I needed one of my kids to come through, and I was really annoyed at him, and he was really annoyed at me, and I needed him to go to take care of something, you know, for the family, to pick up one of the other kids, my daughter from Gan. And I knew that he was annoyed, and I was like, okay, there's no way he's going to go do it. And I peeked my head out in the middle of a meeting, and he had gone. And when he came back, I was like, that is what it means to be mature, is to be able to understand, I'm so pissed. I don't want to do it. I'm furious. The midah, this anger or this frustration or this annoyance or whatever it is completely overwhelming me. Yet I'm still able to say, you know something, it's not completely overwhelming me. I'm still me, and I can still respond, and I can still be responsible, and I can still choose my next action. And I think that's really what it means to be a human.
Yeah, there's someone I know who calls that containing disharmony.
Right.
Becoming harmonious with disharmony.
Harmony with disharmony. That's right.
Right.
Right. I think
There's a lot of growth in that. What was that?
There's just two separate points we were making. They were related, but there was two separate things. One was, you know, for myself, I might be upset at somebody, but I'm willing to go. But there's another thing. I think the point I was trying to bring out is that for our children, to give them the sense, a real, not just a talk, but a real sense of might not be perfect, but you're still good. And that I might not, and therefore I might not be perfect, but I'm still good. In other words, perfection is not what it's about. It's about accepting one another, and we can still love one another. It's just the same without the perfection.
Well, I actually think that it is kind of the same thing, because what we're saying is that there's the part of you that's good, and there's the part of you that makes mistakes. And which part of you is defining? The part of you that makes mistakes is not the totality of who you are. The totality of who you are is larger, and that's the essence. And then there's also the mistakes, and there's the progress, and there's the journey, and there's the life experience that you're going to go through. But no matter, I'm not going to let that part become the definition of the whole totality of who you are.
All right. I hear that. Word.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen.
I feel like that's what Hashem looks at us.
Rabbi Nachman is the Don. That's his take on Donakaf Schus, right? Like usually Rashi, I think, is like, the way we usually talk about judge favorably. Like assume there's some piece of the puzzle that you don't know about, and you're missing the context, and really it's not as you think it's negative, but really it could be positive because you don't know there's a piece of the situation that you don't know, right? But Rabbi Nachman is literally, if you look at the words, Don, judge, Lakaf, in accordance with the Chus, meritoriousness. Judge the person in accordance with the meritorious things that they do. That's the person. When you see something positive, recognize that's the essence of the person. Then there's a bunch of other stuff the guy does. It comes from the crap piled up on top of who he or she is, right? So there's an idea of that. Yeah.
They say heavy dan eskol ha'adam, the kapskos. Meaning that when you're dealing with the whole totality of the human being, recognize the totality of a human is good. The fact is that we make mistakes along the way, But when you're done at kol ha'adam, make sure you're done at kol ha'adam, the kapskos. Very powerful.
Cool. What else you got for us today?
Anyhow, this was amazing. The truth is that there are definitely some more things that we haven't gotten into, but maybe we'll have to do it at a future date. I think that we've been together for quite a while, and this has been really, really, really amazing. Thank you, Rabbi Eli.
Well, Hashem, thanks for having. Great to be here.
Yeah, truly, truly amazing. And you should be blessed to continue to shine the light and keep on teaching and keep on sharing the goodness, and both out there in the world and in your home, as we've said. And Bezrat Hashem, you should make it to the Dead Sea again soon.
Amen, amen.
This has been a pleasure.
Thanks.
Thanks, Eli. What a blast.
Be blessed, peoples.